Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, whenever you're listening to this amazing business accelerator with myself, Adam Strong. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about how to get onto more podcasts. Interesting subject, but for you guys that are listening in to me live, as just a quick reminder, use the hashtag live, use the hashtag replay. That'd be awesome. And also, if you, again, PLC, post, like, or comment on the comment section below if you have any questions. I'll be here to answer. If you're listening to this on the podcast, we'll put all the links below on the Game Changers experience. That'd be super awesome as well. So listen, let's get straight into this because it's an interesting subject. So as you guys know, I have a podcast called the Game Changers Experience, as I mentioned to you. It's in the top 2.5% global rankings. We have listeners in 43 countries, thousands of downloads on a monthly basis. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, depending on when you're listening to this recording, of course, we're on currently 162 episodes. So, 2 years of really hard work and things like that. Now, I kid you not, I get multiple pitches on a daily basis from people that want to get onto podcasts. So, first of all, let's talk about why podcasting is such a great tool for building brand. Well, number one, it's a great way to build trust, right? So podcasting is a little bit like radio show. It positions you as a key authority in your niche or in your industry. And if it's done right, you can really leverage it. But it's also the long game. So when you're building brand, you're building the long game and you're building the short game, right? So podcasting is the long game because effectively podcasts don't go away anywhere, right? They're on Apple or Spotify or whatever it is. Like your episode is cemented, in the archives or whatever it is. But people have access to it because it's for the public, right? So it's a great opportunity. So I remember doing a podcast a year ago, actually. And only recently, someone came into contact and they're like, "Hey, so I listened to this episode on this podcast, and it was like a year ago. I did that podcast a year ago. So you just never know what comes off the back of that." Interestingly enough, so I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about how to approach podcast hosts, because as I mentioned to you, I get pitched so many times; it's just unbelievable. And so I wanted to kind of share with you guys about some of the most common mistakes that people make, because I actually turned down 99% of all podcast interviews down. Now, that's a huge amount. And the reason I turned them down is for a number of reasons. Number one, do not, when you're pitching to somebody, say you're pitching to me as an example, right? Do not give me your life story. It's unbelievable how many people give me this 1,000-word essay about how great they are and how credible they are and whatever it is. The reality is that I don't give a monkeys. And I say that in the nicest possible way. I want to know, I don't want to know what your life story is at the end of the day, okay? Because if I don't know you and I have no relationship with you, then to me, you're a nobody, okay? And again, I'm talking this from a authentic, realist perspective, okay? And trying to get your head into the heads and the minds of podcast hosts. Because what was I going to say to you? So that is one of the biggest mistakes, is give me this long ass pitch, right? Where it's telling me your life story. And frankly, I just don't have time for that. Number two, you've really got to think about how many other pitches is a podcast host actually going to receive? We're going to receive hundreds, if not thousands, okay? Especially if a podcast has been around for some time and it's got a credible track record. That's really important. You've got to be mindful of the person that's actually reading your email. And listen, applying for a podcast is no different to pitching to a journalist. Journalists are busy. Podcast hosts are busy, right? We're getting multiple pitches on a daily basis. So you've really got to kind of bear that in mind. So that's really important. And thirdly, and fourthly, what I would highly recommend you guys do is to make sure you do your research, because it absolutely amazes me where, when people pitch me, they don't personalize their invitation. They just say hello or good morning or good afternoon. They don't even use my name. They don't even know who I am. And again, it's about, um, I feel like an applicant's really kind of try to take advantage of that. And again, if you're not making it personalized, then again, there's this, you're just making an excuse to just to get someone like myself to press the delete button. So what are some of the things that you should do? Okay. When you're pitching to someone like me, make it no more than 2 paragraphs, right? So what do you want? Okay. Why should I consider you? Okay. And what makes you different? Very, very simple. Okay. So what do you want? What makes you different? And why should I pick you? Very simple. Number two, do some due diligence and some research on the host, right? Find out what's important to them. Find out what their, values are. Find out what's going to get their attention. Okay, because I can guarantee you, if you done some research on the host itself, that makes it a little bit more easier for a conversation, right? It makes it a lot easier to break the ice. Number three, podcast hosts are not going to come to you. Okay, you have to go to them, but you have to add value to them. And what do I mean by adding value? Because it's very subjective, right? So what I mean by adding value is very simply, hang on a second. Very simply, you have to think to yourself, okay, so how can I add value to this podcast? Well, let me give an example. Rather than kind of dropping the long ass email that says, "Oh, I listened to your podcast of this episode. Oh, I got so much inspiration." Blah 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 blah. Okay, what you should say is something like, for example, be like, "Hey, so I've been listening to your podcast for the last couple of weeks. I really enjoyed this episode. In fact, what I've done now is I've actually left a 5-star review on Apple, and then you could share and tag it, for example." You could connect with myself on LinkedIn, personalize the message, why you want to connect, etc. Okay. Find out again what's important to me, what's going to make me tick, what motivates me, what are my core values. Okay. So, and this really sounds, maybe from the perspective of you guys that are applying for podcasts, as, hey, this is a really long, a long, should we say, strategy, long-term strategy, and it is. But the reality is that if you want to increase the conversions of you getting onto podcasts, and this applies to podcasts, it applies to speaking opportunities, it applies to applying for summits, it applies to anything that requires you to apply a little bit of effort on your part. Because if you're just the type of person that basically just copies and pastes the same text over and over again, how's that working out for you? Because I can probably guarantee you that your conversions are probably about this big, which is very small. So really important, okay, to make sure that you're doing it correctly, okay? So the other thing I was going to say to you as well, make it easy for podcast hosts, right? Don't make it difficult for people, okay? Create a point of contact. So if, for example, you are more visible on LinkedIn, then great. Say that, or put a link with regards to your link. I want to know how credible you are. And like for me, for example, like LinkedIn is where I kind of hang out. So generally, that is where I would direct people to, or my website, adamstrong.net, for example. So guys, I hope that this is kind of giving you some ideas about how to approach podcast guests as a guest to get onto more podcasts, to build brand, to build authority. We talked a little bit about podcasting is the long game rather than the short game. So it's around for a long time. So if you're putting in backlinks with regards to your website or a landing page or whatever it might be, okay, just make sure that those links are active and they're around. They haven't changed them, or for whatever reason. Otherwise, hey, you're making it hard for your listeners to add value or whatever it might be. And number three, make sure that you approach podcast hosts with some value, right? Do not give me the 1,000 word essay about how great you are, because no one cares, frankly. It's all about what you can do for the podcast host? What can you do for them? How can you get their attention? How can you create curiosity? How can you be a little bit different from all the other people that are a little bit lazy in terms of copy and pasting the same essay with very little conversions? So listen, I hope that this has been an extremely useful eye-opener episode for you guys. And if you're interested in learning more about how you can get more exposure, more visibility, more traction, then do me a favor, drop a comment in the comment section below. Connect with me on LinkedIn, of course, and we can have a conversation. So listen, I'm wishing you a great day. If you are listening to me live, you can say hi PLC, post like or comment on the comment section below. I'm always big into engagement anyway. For you guys that are listening into the podcast, I'll make sure that all of the links are below, of course. And yeah, we'll go from there. So hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and I'll be back on here on Monday, depending on when you're listening to this, of course. Hi, Heather. How you doing? Hope you're well. Great to have you. I'll be back on here. So no episode tomorrow, but for you guys that are listening in live, and we'll be back again on Monday for a live 10-minute business accelerate tips. Take care, guys. Have a great day. Fantastic. Bye.